take it in. The problem is we spent nearly $7 trillion, and that's what
we do cover climate here, guys. We do cover climate.
Ladies, excuse us. Let us do our job. Let us do our job. We hear what you have to say, but you got to go.
Joining me now, Marc Morano, author of The Great Reset, Global Elites in the Permanent Lockdown. Marc, all right, we have these nutballs. People have seen all the internet videos. They're tossing potatoes and paint on Van Gogh paintings. They're interrupting stuff with The View. And what happens, Marc, is people on the right, they get confused what they're looking at, meaning they see it, it looks awful. They think it looks awful to everyone, and they're not wrong, so they don't understand the tactic behind it. Marc, would you explain why they do this?
Well, the idea is they want to create chaos. That's the first thing. Now, not only at this level where you can't even have a conversation, or you can't go to an art museum and they're pouring soup on famous paintings, or they're pouring out milk, but also on a much higher level, they want to create this chaos. Supply chain, inflation, energy blackouts, food shortages, meat reductions, car shortages with gas-powered car bans, limits on free speech. Because if you go back to Vladimir Lenin's, essentially his mantra during the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia was the worse, the better. In other words, the more chaos, disruption, and misery you can create and calamity, the better your chance to impose a radical transformation on society. And that's exactly what they're trying to impose. In fact, they openly talk about it. The United Nations, Anthony Fauci, you need radical change in our society in order to survive the climate, to fight viruses. And what you saw there with Ted Cruz, I thought the funniest thing he said during that attack on The View was he said, thank God you have no Van Gogh paintings here. But here's the funniest part. The Hollywood producer, Adam McKay, who did this Way Up or This End Up, whatever the movie was, a kid's movie, gave $4 million to these radicals at Just Oil, and their mantra, their actual website says they believe that we face human extinction unless we do something. So they're indoctrinating these young kids. What you see these kind of tactics, and you see the artwork being vandalized and the milk being poured out and all that, that is courtesy of wealthy Hollywood donors, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the Kennedy family.
Now, I need you to explain that for me, Marc, because I don't understand. If I'm a wealthy Hollywood executive or I'm one of the Rockefellers, I've got unlimited funds. I fly private jets and drive fancy Lamborghinis to pick up pretty girls. Why would I want to destroy oil?
I had a plane go right overhead when you said that. But I think you said, why would they want to destroy things? Is that what you're saying? They have it all set? Because these, in a sense, they're essentially Bolshevik radicals hiding behind their Bel Air mansions, multiple Bel Air mansions, and their private jets. So this is what happens oftentimes with the very wealthy, with the disconnected from the average person. They get these radical views of culture, society, economics, and they start believing that, and of course, everyone's yesing them. If you're a Hollywood producer, the movie was called Don't Look Up. I was saying This End Up. I don't know why I said that, but his name was Adam McKay. He gave $4 million to this climate emergency fund, which funds Just Say No to Oil and all these groups that are going out with their paintings and pouring milk and blocking traffic and the whole 9 yards. But we see this happen. We see people like Dick Van Dyke. I mean, he was a Bernie Sanders socialist. We see people for decades in Hollywood espousing these radical views. And I think it's mostly because of a disconnect. But I think we've gone a step further now where they're getting more radical and they're getting bigger budgets and they're getting more aggressive with these tactics. And then we saw that, of course, with the traffic. That's happening all over the world. And where I live, Washington, D.C. area, routinely now they're blocking the traffic. And it's interesting because it's created a split now. You have people like Michael Mann, the hockey stick creator of the UN climate panel professor. He's actually come out and said, we've got to stop this because we're not winning over any converts. If it makes people think about climate, they'll think they hate climate activists. And then you have people on the other spectrum who are like, this is great. It's headlining in the New York Times. This is the attention we need. So will it work? I don't know. I mean, it's very lowbrow and silly. I had the same thing happen to me at Georgetown University, 2019. They literally shut down my speech while I was speaking. and it was all the organized protesters. 50 showed up singing songs, chanting, wouldn't let me talk. The police had to come in. You lose a whole hour. It's civil disobedience. And I'll tell you what, I don't like these planned ones, but I saw the ones against AOC for the anti-war stuff, or anti-war protesters. And when they do it like that, where it seems more spontaneous and they're yelling and they're trying to get a question and they're angry and it's not scripted and it's not some plot and they don't have props, I think it's much more effective than when they do these, robotic, memorized, stupid lines where they go through like a play act. So I do like to see, I do like the kind of civil disobedience we saw at the town hall with AOC. And I'm talking about whether it's Republican or Democrat. I like that kind because it seems in parent protests. Another example would be the parent protests at school boards, because it was genuine and real. What happens when you get Hollywood funding and Kennedy family and Rockefeller is these protests, even what you saw with Ted Cruz, they're just a bunch of people who go in there and they're told they have to disrupt this and do it. And many times they have these worded out songs and they sing or they have music. It's just nonsense. And it just looks fake. But some of these are real and some of them can be effective. I think the effective ones are what we saw with AOC, parent school board meetings, and that kind of thing.
Don't miss Jesse Kelly Breaks History, Che Guevara, the latest episode of a new series available now exclusively for First TV supporters. Visit the First TV app or thefirsttv.com to subscribe and start watching today.